Hello and welcome. This is Into Vietnam, broadcast every day at 10:30 p.m. on VITV. Let's take a look at our top stories of the day. The National Financial Supervisory Commission said Vietnam's inflation will hit 3 to 4% in 2014. The manufacturing sector recovers in September. And Samsung expands its output in Vietnam with an appliance plant worth $560 million. The National Financial Supervisory Commission said Vietnam's inflation will hit 3 to 4% in 2014, while the purchasing power stays low as consumer price index increases. The National Financial Supervisory Commission has projected Vietnam's inflation will stand at around 3 to 4% in 2014 if there are no significant changes in prices of basic commodities. In September, the country's inflation dropped to 3.12% against the corresponding period last year and continues to pose a downward trend, facilitating the decrease of interest rate level in banks. The committee recommends the government supply low interest rate capital for banks to cut lending interest rate. It also suggests studying the use of the national financial resources to collect non-performing loans, speed up the state budget and government bond disbursements. Besides administrative reforms, the speeding up of privatization and reforming of state-owned enterprises also help to bring inflation to a stable level.
The purchasing power of Vietnamese citizens in September 2014 reached $11.65 billion, representing a 0.7% month-on-month increase and a 9.1% year-on-year increase. The General Statistics Office figures also showed that purchasing power in the first 9 months of 2014 reached $102.2 billion, a year-on-year increase of 11.12%. The purchasing power of the private sector reached $88.4 billion, making up nearly 90% of total sales, or an 11.1% year-on-year increase. This was attributed to the Mid-Autumn Festival and the demand for school supplies at the start of the new school year. An economist of the GSO said last month's Consumer Price Index, or CPI, increase was the highest since March. This indicates that purchasing power remained low, and Vietnamese residents were still tightening their budgets on all items except for daily needs like food and transportation.
The newly released report by the HSBC indicated that the Purchasing Manager Index, or PMI, in September in Vietnam rose to 51.7 points from 50.3 points in August, which shows that the manufacturing sector has significantly improved from the previous month. Rising orders help to improve the conditions of manufacturing activities in Vietnam in the end of the third quarter. Business conditions also got better in the past 13 months, accompanied with stronger domestic consumption power. However, manufacturers' output and recruitment increased slightly, while the inflation level of input cost dropped for the second consecutive month to the record low level since June 2013. It's encouraging that Vietnam's business expansion occurred in the fastest pace since March, while new employment in September stayed unchanged from August. The HSBC expects Vietnam's manufacturing sector to continue recovering in the final months of the year on the advantageous grounds of labor cost, electricity and water cost. The potentials of free trade in 2015-2016 period will also have to support the sector. Samsung Electronics Company will build a $560 million plant in Ho Chi Minh City to manufacture televisions and home appliances, part of the company's plan to make Vietnam a key part of its supply chain. The world's largest phone maker already has 2 plants in the northern province of Vietnam, on which it spent $4.5 billion. The facility will occupy a 70-hectare site in the country's economic hub, according to the statement from Samsung Vietnam Electronics. Vietnam is a strategic player in Samsung global supply chain. The country is attracting manufacturers as they ship production from China amid rising costs and a shrinking labor force. Microsoft Corporation mobile phone business, acquired from Nokia, is expanding its production in Vietnam, while LG Electronics Incorporation will open a television and appliances factory. Construction of the Samsung complex in Saigon High-Tech Park is slated to start early in 2015, with production commencing in mid-2016. The plant will employ about 4,000 to 5,000 people. A total amount of more than $4 million of official development assistance was implemented in Vietnam between January and September this year. The government reported total ODA and preferential loans committed for the 9-month period through September the 21st were worth $3.5 million, equivalent to 75% of the same period last year, and more than $4 million of the sum was disbursed, up 10%. The disbursement was improved over years, but the implementation rate of big donors was at low level compared to regional countries. Vietnam is assessed to have made good use of ODA with high success rate of funded projects. In 2015, Vietnam will participate in the ASEAN Economic Community or AEC. The AEC establishment is a turning point, marking the comprehensive integration of the Southeast Asian economies. However, currently, many Vietnamese enterprises are still dependent on the external supply of raw materials, including those from footwear and handbag manufacturing industry. How to reduce dependence and how to self-supply with local materials. These are the concerns of many business and experts.
As reported by the Vietnam Leather and Footwear Association, in the cost structure of footwear products, raw materials account for 68 to 75%. Meanwhile, footwear producers said current localization rate of new products is only about 40%. Notably, most of the important materials such as tanned leather, artificial leather, upper canvas are imported to meet the domestic demand.
Việt Nam có thể cung cấp được những cái sản phẩm như là đế gót, đế trung, thùng hộp bao bì và những cái vải lót thì chúng ta có thể mua trong nước. Riêng về da thì đa số là nhập khẩu. Tính bình quân trên giá trị đơn hàng thì khoảng 60% là chúng ta phải nhập khẩu và 40% thì chúng ta có thể mua trong nước. Nhưng mà mua trong nước thì chúng ta cũng mua từ những cái nhà cung cấp nguyên vật liệu là FDI, 100% vốn nước ngoài đầu tư tại Việt Nam và có cái sự chỉ định hoặc là giới thiệu của khách hàng.
Cách đây 2 năm thì chúng tôi nhập 100% từ Hàn Quốc. Và Hàn Quốc là cái nhà cung cấp chủ lực cái nguyên liệu nhựa này cho thị trường Việt Nam cách đây từ cả 10 năm. Đấy. Nhưng mà tuy nhiên từ 2 năm trở lại đây thì Trung Quốc là một cái thị trường mới trỗi dậy và người ta đã cạnh tranh và trở thành cái nhà cung cấp chính cho thị trường Việt Nam tại thời điểm hiện nay. Vì giá cả, việc giao hàng thuận tiện hơn, giá thấp hơn. Theo tôi được biết là 90% nguyên liệu nhựa polyurethane của các cái doanh nghiệp sản xuất đế giày là nhập khẩu từ Trung Quốc.
Having to import most important materials has made it difficult for many exporters. They have to meet higher and higher chemical and physical standards of testing, especially for the demanding European market. Enterprises face extra costs sourcing raw materials, making competition more difficult.
Nguồn nguyên liệu đầu vào phải tìm được cái nhà cung cấp có uy tín và khi mà họ đưa mẫu nguyên liệu như thế nào thì nguyên liệu sản xuất đại trà phải giống như vậy, là phải đạt được cái yêu cầu như vậy. Thì để tìm được một cái nhà cung cấp mà có cái uy tín đó thì chắc chắn rằng là giá thành sản phẩm sẽ cao hơn và Thì như vậy giá thành sản phẩm cao hơn thì có một cái là gây ra cái cạnh tranh cũng khó khăn đối với lại doanh nghiệp.
With an average growth rate of 10 to 15% per year, the coming bilateral and multilateral trade agreements pose challenges for businesses despite creating chances. In this context, the MUCHA project, which supports footwear enterprises to better meet the product safety regulations with a budget of more than 314,000 euros, scheduled to run through December 2016, is expected to be a boost to help exporters increase revenue while focusing on quality verification and expanding opportunities for sourcing suitable materials.
Với ngành da giày thì cái vấn đề nhập khẩu nguyên liệu cũng là một cái bài toán rất là nan giải, và cái định hướng của chúng ta là sẽ chuyển dần cái việc sản xuất nguyên phụ liệu vào trong nước để gia tăng cái giá trị nội địa. Tôi nghĩ rằng là trong cái thời gian tới thì chính cái xây dựng được một cái hệ thống tiêu chuẩn quy chuẩn chuẩn cho cái sản xuất nguyên phụ liệu, nó là một cái nền tảng ban đầu để cho các doanh nghiệp có được cái cơ sở là định hướng cho việc xây dựng đầu tư các cái nhà máy sản xuất cái nguyên phụ liệu, và nó cũng là một cái tiêu chuẩn để cho chúng ta đảm bảo được các cái nguồn cung cho các doanh nghiệp sản xuất giày, và cũng là đảm bảo được sự chấp thuận của khách hàng khi mà sản phẩm của chúng ta đã đạt được một cái tiêu chuẩn quy chuẩn đúng theo yêu cầu.
Under the orientation of footwear industry development, the industry will gradually increase the localization rate of products by 2020 and reach the localization rate of 65% in 2015 or 70 to 80% in 2020. Economic experts said that the most important in raw material self-provision is leather provision. They suggested Vietnam to commercialize livestock farming to have improved the quality of raw and tanned leather. With different kinds of materials, footwear firms should seek diversified sources of supply, avoiding dependence on imports from China.
And the final part is summary of local gold prices, forex and stock market. Well, that's the end of this edition of Into Vietnam. Thank you so much for your time with us. We'll see you soon and goodbye for now.